Hold on to your tinfoil hats, folks, because we're diving headfirst into the wacky world of cryptocurrency and government conspiracies. We're talking about Bitcoin, that digital currency everyone's been buzzing about, and its possible connection to, wait for it, the NSA. Yes, NSA, the folks who probably know what you had for breakfast last Tuesday. Now I know what you're thinking. John, are you suggesting that the agency notorious for spying on its own citizens secretly laid the groundwork for a decentralized, anonymous digital currency? And the answer is, maybe? It sounds crazy, but buckle up, because things are about to get interesting. Our story starts back in 1997, a time when most people thought surfing the web involved a surfboard and a dial-up modem. That year, a group of NSA researchers published a paper with a rather intriguing title, How to Make a Mint: The Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash. Coincidence or something more? Let's dig deeper. Now before we get into the nitty-gritty of this paper, we need to talk about the NSA. They're the folks who are supposed to protect our digital borders, but they often act more like that creepy neighbor who always seems to be watching you through the blinds. They're known for their top-secret surveillance programs, code-breaking abilities, and a general air of mystery that would make even the most paranoid conspiracy theorist blush. So, why would an organization obsessed with secrecy be interested in anonymous digital cash? Well, it's complicated. On the one hand, anonymous transactions could potentially be used for illicit activities, something the NSA is supposed to prevent. But on the other hand, imagine the possibilities if they could somehow control or track this new form of money. It's enough to make your head spin. Now, back to that 1997 paper. This wasn't just some random research project gathering dust on a shelf. This paper laid out a blueprint for a digital currency that looked suspiciously like, you guessed it, Bitcoin. It described a system where transactions could be made anonymously and securely using cryptography, all without the need for a central authority like a bank or government. Sound familiar? Of course, the NSA claimed this was all just theoretical, a way to explore the potential of cryptography. But some people believe this paper was more than just an academic exercise. They think it was a trial balloon, a way for the NSA to gauge public reaction to the idea of digital cash, and maybe even lay the groundwork for something much bigger. One of the key concepts outlined in the How to Make a Mint paper was the idea of anonymous electronic cash. This was a radical concept at the time, as most digital transactions required some form of identification. The paper proposed a system where users could send and receive money without revealing their identities, making it virtually untraceable. Now imagine the implications of this. No more credit card fees, no more bank overdraft charges, and best of all, no more pesky government oversight. It's easy to see why this idea was both exciting and terrifying to people. Section 5. Cryptography, the backbone of trust. Of course, any system involving anonymous transactions needs to be incredibly secure, and that's where cryptography comes in. The NSA paper went into great detail about the cryptographic techniques that could be used to create a tamper-proof digital currency. They talked about things like digital signatures, hash functions, and other concepts that sound like they came straight out of a computer science textbook. Now, I'm not a cryptography expert, but I'm told these techniques are incredibly complex and sophisticated. They're the same kind of tools that banks and governments use to secure their own systems. So it's not a stretch to think that the NSA might have had a vested interest in exploring how these tools could be used to create a new form of money. Another key idea presented in the NSA paper was the concept of decentralization. This means that instead of relying on a central authority like a bank to process transactions, the system would be distributed across a network of computers. This would make it much more difficult for any single entity to control or manipulate the currency. Now this was a particularly radical idea at a time when most people couldn't even imagine a world without banks. But the NSA researchers recognized that a decentralized system would be much more resilient to censorship and control, something that would have obvious appeal to a secretive organization like theirs. The NSA paper also touched on the eternal debate between privacy and regulation. On the one hand, anonymous digital cash could potentially be used for illegal activities like money laundering and drug trafficking. On the other hand, it could also provide a way for individuals to protect their financial privacy from overreaching governments and corporations. The paper didn't take a firm stance on this issue, but it acknowledged the tension between these two competing interests. And it's a tension that continues to this day as governments around the world grapple with how to regulate cryptocurrencies. Now you might be wondering, what does all of this have to do with Bitcoin? Well, here's the thing. Many of the ideas outlined in that 1997 NSA paper bear a striking resemblance to the features of Bitcoin. Both systems rely on cryptography to secure transactions, both are decentralized, and both offer a degree of anonymity. This has led some people to believe that Bitcoin may have been directly inspired by the NSA's research. Some even go so far as to speculate that Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, may have had ties to the intelligence community. So, did the NSA secretly pave the way for Bitcoin? It's impossible to say for sure. The evidence is circumstantial, and the NSA isn't exactly known for being forthcoming with information. But the similarities between the how to make a mint paper and Bitcoin are difficult to ignore. Regardless of its origins, Bitcoin has undoubtedly shaken up the financial world. It's forced us to rethink our relationship with money, privacy, and the role of technology in our lives. And while we may never know for sure whether the NSA played a role in its creation, one thing is certain: the future of money is going to be very interesting indeed, and probably a little bit terrifying, but mostly interesting.